Thousands of people lose their lives because of hazardous energies at workplace. So what are the various national and international initiatives and regulations that govern the release of hazardous energies? And how does Lockout Tagout fit into the various governing regulations and legislations? We are back with a very important video to explain the different regulations and legislations regarding lockout, tagout and control of hazardous energies around the world. Namaste, I'm Dr. Nalini Gulati. Let's start learning. The problem of controlling hazardous energies knows no geographical borders, but the progress in tackling this issue has not been universal. As industrialization increased, problems associated with the release of energies also multiplied. Injuries and property damages in developed countries prompted efforts to control these incidents. Societal expectations of good standards of health and safety vary across the world. In developed countries, the societal expectation of good standards of health and safety is the strongest, causing organizations to have good standards that prevent accidents and injuries. Various parts of the world, particularly in developing countries, the societal expectations of good health and safety may be more of a hope and have less influence. They have little in form of governmental regulation, consensus guidance or professional practices directed at hazardous energy control. In this video, we are going to discuss several significant international and national initiatives that relate to the control of hazardous energies, as the entire world is one family. To learn more about various energies, you can check out our last video, Types of Hazardous Energies. The link to the video will be given down in the description box. Some organizations willingly adopt good standards of controlling hazardous energies. However, others are unwilling to adopt what may look like expensive health and safety standards. This is often because the benefits of adopting good hazardous energy control standard may not be immediately obvious to them. One way of ensuring good hazardous energy control and health and safety standards is by national government legislating for it and ensuring compliance with the standards. The role of national legislation is to motivate organizations to take actions that lead to positive health and safety outcomes. The function of legislation is to define the types of actions organizations need to take, provide clear standards for controlling hazardous energies, and provide mechanisms for ensuring compliance with the legislations. However, the standards set out in legislations are often minimum standards. They are only the standards that all organizations agree to meet. Therefore, compliance is the least that should be expected of organizations when they control hazardous energies at work. But a major limitation of legislation in control of hazardous energy, or in fact any health and safety legislation, is that it is greatly influenced by the level of enforcement of the standards set out in the legislation. Legislations can also make the failure to achieve a given standard a crime. Committing a crime is an offense against the state that could lead to punishment, for example in the form of fines or imprisonment. If positive hazardous energy control outcomes are to be achieved, the standards and legislations need to be enforced strictly. Knowing this, let's move straight onto the various national and international initiatives and regulations. International. The International Labour Organization is a UN body that is made up of representatives from member countries of the UN. They all agree to be bound by conventions that they have ratified. Member countries use the conventions to structure and guide their approach to health and safety. It saves them developing their own approaches through their own experiences, which can be both painful and costly in terms of human lives. Between 1945 and 1949, the ILO, based in Geneva, Switzerland, developed a model code of safety regulations for industrial establishments for the guidance of government and industries. Excerpts from the model code: Regulation 118, Electrical Repairs, Part 4, and Regulation 212, Safety Measures for Maintenance and Repair Work, Part 11, 12, and 13, show the nature of the provisions proposed as international standards to safeguard against release of hazardous energy. As of 1994, the ILO has not published any current directives, guidelines, or standards specifically relating to the control of hazardous energy, lockout tagout, but some other international regulations such as International Electrotechnical Commission IEC 60204, Safety of Machinery, Electrical protects persons from electrical hazards, and ENISO, International Organization for Standardization 14118, Prevention of Unexpected Startup, clearly specifies requirements for designed in means for keeping a machine in a stopped and safe condition while persons are present in the danger zones. European Union. The European Union have directives to controlling hazardous energies present at the workplace, like C2006-42 EC, Machine Directive. This directive defines essential health and safety requirements of machinery. 22009-104 EC, Work Directive. This directive lays down minimum safety and health requirements for the use of work equipment by workers at work. The employer must take every measure to ensure the safety of the equipment made available to the workers. National. UK. The UK does not directly mention the word lockout tagout, but has many regulations in place whose intent is the same: to protect workers performing service and maintenance from hazardous energies. The Electricity at Work Regulations 1989 EAW regulations apply to practically all work environments, and in order to assist and support the regulations, HSG 85 is a generic document covering safe working practices for work on electrical equipment. Regulation 12 means for cutting off the supply and for isolation, and Regulation 13, precautions for work on equipment, did specifically address safe ways of isolating hazardous energy whilst the work is in progress. Another regulation is the Provision and Use of Work Equipment Regulations 1998, often abbreviated to PUWER. It places duties on people and companies who own, operate, or have control over work equipment to provide suitable means to isolate it from all its sources of energy, and lock-off should be used to prevent unexpected startup of machinery or equipment. BS 7671 Requirements for Electrical Installations, IEE 2008, Section 537224. Provision shall be made for securing offload isolating devices against inadvertent or unauthorized opening. Section 537312. Suitable means shall be provided to prevent electrically powered equipment becoming unintentionally reactivated. USA. Perhaps the most commonly known control of hazardous energy or Lockout Tagout standards stem from the United States. OSHA 29 CFR 1910-147, Control of Hazardous Energy. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration is an agency of the United States Department of Labor. The OSHA standard for control of hazardous energy, Lockout Tagout 29 CFR 1910-147, addresses the practices and procedures necessary to disable machinery or equipment, thereby preventing the release of hazardous energy while employees perform servicing or maintenance activities. The standard outlines measures for electrical, mechanic, pneumatic, hydraulic, chemical, thermal or other energy sources. OSHA 29 CFR 1910-333, Electrical Safety. In addition, 29 CFR 1910-333 Electrical Safety sets forth requirement to protect employees working on electric circuits and equipment. This section requires workers to use safe work practices including lockout tagout. The control of hazardous energies is also addressed in number of other OSHA standards including marine terminals 1919 subpart C, longshoring 1918 subpart G, construction 1926 subpart K and Q, electrical 1910 subpart S, and electronic power generation, transmission and distribution 1910 subpart R and 1926 subpart V. It goes on. NC Z2441 2003, Lockout Tagout and Alternative Methods. Other than these, control of hazardous energy is also mentioned by American National Standards Institute in Standards NC Z2441 2003, Lockout Tagout and Alternative Methods, and in NC A1044 2014, Control of Energy Sources, Lockout Tagout for construction and demolition operations. Canada. Canadian Standards Association CSA addresses the control of hazardous energies in standard CSA Z460 2013, Control of Hazardous Energy, Lockout and Other Methods. It defines lockout as the placing of a lock on an energy isolating device so that workers cannot operate it until the lock has been removed. While a lockout procedure is mandatory for many jobs throughout Canada, provincial regulations vary. Australia and New Zealand. The standards AS/NZS 4836 2011, Safe Working on or near Low Voltage Electrical Installations and Equipment, provides a framework around isolation of potential energy sources and elimination of potential hazards. A key isolation principle is that energy sources should be locked out with a device that cannot be tampered with whilst maintenance and repair activities are being undertaken. Another standard is AS 4024 1603 2006, Safety of Machinery, Design of Controls, Interlocks and Guards, Prevention of Unexpected Startup. This standard details the requirements for prevention of unexpected startup of equipment. It specifies that all isolated energy sources should be locked to prevent inadvertent re-energization of the equipment. And the Work Health and Safety Regulation 2011 Part 4.7 outline the specific requirements pertaining to electrical safety and energized electrical work. The regulation highlights how to safely isolate hazardous energies while doing electrical work. Lastly, in Section 274 of Work, Health and Safety Act WHS, control of hazardous energies is mentioned for carrying out work in confined space. While a lockout procedure is mandatory for many jobs throughout Australia, provincial regulations vary. India. Most occupational health and safety legislations in force in India are about half a century old, and while much has happened on the manufacturing front in these last 5 decades, necessary amendments in the legislations and programs are yet to be done. In India, controlling of hazardous energies, Lockout Tagout, is referred to in the Indian Factories Act 1948, Chapter 4, Safety, Subtopic 24, Striking Gear and Devices for Cutting Off Power. Part 3, it states that when a device which can inadvertently move from on to off position is provided in a factory to cut off power, arrangements shall be provided for locking the device in safe position to prevent accidental starting of the transmission machinery or other machines to which the device is fitted. China published the national standard GB T246122 2009 Safety Requirements for Electrical Equipment Application and GB T33579 2017 Safety of Machinery Control Methods of Hazardous Energy Lockout Tagout to create a safer workplace by protecting workers from hazardous energies at work through Lockout Tagout. The national standard explains the locking and tagging scheme, establish a control system, and use the locking tagging procedure to prevent the accidental release or transmission of energy from the machine. Ireland. In Ireland, the Safety, Health and Welfare at Work Regulations 2007 addressed the control of hazardous energies. Its Regulation 3.4, Connection to Energy Sources, states that the employer shall ensure all work equipment is fitted with clearly identifiable means to isolate it from all its energy sources, and also ensure that the reconnecting of work equipment to its energy sources poses no risk to the employees concerned. Brazil. Regulatory Standard NR12, Machinery and Work Equipment Safety, provides technical references, basic principles and protective measures to ensure the physical integrity of workers and establishes minimum requirements for the prevention of accidents in the design stages and the use of machinery and equipment of all kinds. In subtopic 12.113, it covers the controlling of hazardous energies in activities including maintenance, inspections, repairs, cleaning, adjustments, and other interventions. Other countries have similarly established national standards and regulations that protect their workforce from hazardous energies. To name few more examples are Austria, ASCHG, Federal Act on Occupational Health and Safety, AMVO, Ordinance on Work Equipment and Tools, Regulation of the Federal Ministry of Commerce and Labor on Protection of Employees while using work equipment. France, UTE C18510, Electrical Applications, Lockout of apparatus for service and maintenance to lockout equipment is to carry out the necessary procedures to ensure that the equipment is placed and maintained in a safe position to prevent its activation, and label that the isolated equipment must not be operated. The employer must ensure that all safety procedures are strictly implemented and regularly viewed by appropriate means. Employees must use all necessary tools to carry out maintenance. Labor Code, Article R 45445, the part of the installation on which work is done must be identified and locked. and the best practice document developed by INRS in November 2011 ED 6109. Germany. Annexure 1 and Annexure 2. The German legislation specifies this requirement in the minimum requirements for use of work equipment. Ordinance on Industrial Safety and Health, Annexure 1, work equipment controls must be secured against unintentional or unauthorized actuation. Annexure 2, modification, maintenance or repair operations can only be carried out when the work equipment is shut down. The work equipment and all its moving parts must be protected against accidental start and movement. Italy. The Italian legislation, Directive 2001-145 EC, which amends Directive 89-655 EEC, concerns the minimum safety and health requirements for the use of work equipment by workers at work. Switzerland. UVG, Federal Law on Accidental Insurance, VUV, Regulation on the Prevention of Accidents and Occupational Diseases, EKAS Guideline number 6512 Work Equipment. These regulations clearly stipulate that during maintenance, adjusting or cleaning of the equipment, it has to be in non-operative state and appropriate devices have to be used to ensure that the machine is not accidentally switched on. Spain. The Spanish Directive, Real Decreto 1215/1997, states the minimum safety and health for workers' use of work equipment. Singapore. Singapore Standard 571/2011 covers the servicing or maintenance of machines where any unexpected energization or startup of the machines or release of stored energy could cause injury to employees. It establishes minimum performance requirements for the control of hazardous energy. So these standards and regulations regarding lockout tagout procedures have been painstakingly developed over the past few decades as very good tools for employers and employees to use in the workplaces. Applying these tools requires dedication, hard work, and a genuine desire on the part of both the management and the workers to prevent energy release incidents. Regulatory compliance must be viewed for what is a minimum threshold for safety, not an ultimate solution. National standards are written broadly. Also, it is up to the employer to address how specific local circumstances and conditions need to be handled. The most rigorous and detailed regulations, policies, standards, or codes do little to safeguard workers unless there is strong commitment to safety in a company. This commitment must come from the top management and be embraced by every manager down to the line supervisors and lead persons. If safety does not appear to have high priority among management, workers will see little reason to comply with safety standards, as in some cases they can find it to be time consuming, inconvenient, difficult or burdensome. In countries where lockout tagout standards are followed, accidents, injuries and fatalities have reduced around 80%. There's no dispute in the benefits of a robust LOTO system. So the sooner you start improving your program, the better it will be for everyone involved. And please remember, compliance with prevailing standards must be a starting point for control and not the end. We hope this video has helped you in understanding the various lockout tagout regulations around the world. But still, if you have any confusion, you can comment down below or email us at loto@safetylock.net. We'll surely get back to you with the solutions. If you found this video useful, please click the like button, share this video and subscribe to our channel for more video on energy isolation and lockout tagout. Thank you.